Welcome. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for the opportunity to present key findings and the implications we see for broadband providers from our recent analysis of broadband data usage. I'm Larry Siegel, and along with our founder and CEO, Mark Trudeau. Today, we'll take a look at the trends we see based on usage of broadband networks as a result of our deployed network optimization solutions. We're going to take a deeper dive into the obstacles that are causing network issues and what we can do about it. As you may know, OpenVault provides a modular solution suite with automated actions to improve network performance. It's important to note that these automated actions include proactive network maintenance, or P&M, profile management application, or PMA, and dynamic congestion management. Our unique view into our clients' networks enables us to see trends and how those usage trends impacts their network health. And we do it through software, not requiring heavy investment in capital expenditure and resources. If you've been following our quarterly OVBIs, or OpenVault Broadband Insights, you'll note that over the past few years, it's not been the need for subscriber speed upgrades that are driving providers as much as it's been addressing the factors impacting the quality of experience, or QoE. For example, as you'll see, total consumption in 2Q grew at its fastest rate in the past 3 years. And upstream growth in particular was at its highest usage ever, excluding the pandemic-fueled 2Q 2020. And 1 gigabyte speed users, which represent 18% of all subscribers, are nearing 1 terabyte of usage. These numbers, along with our other insights that we'll review, are from the second quarter release of our OVBI, which is available for download on our website. This data comes directly from our suite of solutions that keep broadband networks as healthy as possible, which you'll hear about in the webinar. As always, if you have any questions, like any Zoom, just put it in the Q&A and we'll address it at the end. So let's get started and jump right in and talk about the kinds of metrics that we usually cover in these things, and I'll turn it over to Mark Trudeau. Mark?
Great, thanks Larry. Let's get into it. Thanks as always for kicking this off. Let's start right away here with average usage per household. Larry mentioned this. We see 13.4% growth, which does represent a bit of an uptick in the growth rate than we've been seeing in recent years, in recent quarters. So it certainly bears watching. Now, a big contributor to that was upstream usage, and as we know, DOCSIS operators in particular have a bit of a challenge when it comes to upstream capacity. So this certainly bears watching. Let's go on to just look at the percentage of growth on the upstream side. As Larry pointed out, you see the big spike in the second quarter of 2020. We saw the same thing in downstream, just a massive growth rate. No surprise there during the beginning of the pandemic. But as you can see now, when we look at subsequent years, this is the highest rate we've seen of growth on the upstream in particular since that spike in 2020. So again, we really have to pay attention to this. We're up to nearly 50 gigabytes per subscriber at this point on the upstream. Now, we always like to shine a light on those super power users, and these are, we define super power users as those that consume more than 2 terabytes of data in a given month. What we're seeing here is a pretty significant increase from 3.7% of subscribers falling into that category in the second quarter of 2024 to just 1 year later, 5% of all subscribers would be considered super power users. Now, it's not enough to just know that this is the percentage of super power users. We really have to be able to identify them specifically, because these are the exact subscribers in a shared network that are causing issues for other subscribers in terms of quality of experience. So being able to pinpoint who these subscribers are and potentially take action if they're abusing the network is really, really important for operators. This is something that we thought was certainly worth highlighting. And if you've been on, if you've seen our reports in the past or our webinars, you'll know that there is a seasonality pattern that we often highlight. And typically, the first quarter of the year is the highest usage that we see, and then we see a dip in the second and third quarters. And as you can see here, for the first time, we actually saw a bit of an uptick in usage here in the second quarter versus the first quarter of 2025. So, we're going to keep an eye on this, but as you can see, since the pandemic, actually, we typically see close to, probably on average over 5% reduction in usage from the first to the second quarter. Now we're seeing a bit of an uptick rather. And we have to keep an eye on it, and we have to, then we think about, well, why is this happening, right? Is usage behavior changing? Is there some killer bandwidth hog app out there that's causing this? And it seems like what we are seeing is a continued trend of cord cutting that we're seeing in the industry. I think that's all over the news, really, about video subscribers canceling service and just going broadband only. We're seeing a lot of people enter the broadband arena that are cord nevers. They never had video, and they only consume content over the broadband pipe. The other thing that I think we're seeing, and I think this bears watching as well, is if you saw ESPN just a few weeks ago announce their own full streaming service where you can consume content on their app and through their own streaming service, all ESPN content. And that's a big shift from where we were. They were holding on to the video bundle revenue for a long time, and they obviously clearly see the writing on the wall with the need to have their own streaming service, which is much broader in scope than ESPN Plus. And we know just the interest level in sports streaming is huge. So I think all of these things are contributing to perhaps a bit of a change in seasonality here. And again, it bears watching, and we will certainly continue to keep an eye on this as we move forward. So one of the things that we've reported on a lot in the past is usage across different speed tiers. And so what we thought we'd do here is just look at last year, second quarter versus second quarter of 2025 in these different speed tier categories. As you can see on the left, subscribers that have less than 50 megabits per second, you can see what their usage profile is. Notice in that category, you're seeing a big reduction in average usage from 2024 to 2025. The data tells us there that it's actually caused by subscribers that have a decent amount of usage but need more bandwidth have upgraded to the faster speeds. So what's left in the less than 50 megabits per second category are subscribers that just really don't use the service that much. Maybe they still have video, maybe they're not big streamers, they just use the service for email, for example. But as subscribers upgrade out of those slow speeds to the faster speeds, you can start to see the difference in the growth across each of the speed tiers. Also, I think of interest to point out here is we have a little bit of an anomaly when you go from 100 to 200 megabits per second up to 200 to 400. You're seeing a little bit lower usage, which is, I think, a little bit of an anomaly in the data. But certainly as you move up to the faster speeds, north of 500 megabits per second, and then up to a gigabit per second, you're seeing significant levels of usage. So those gig customers are now using, on average, almost a terabyte they're consuming almost a terabyte of data per month. So strong correlation there. As you move up the speeds, you're seeing higher and higher usage. And here, what we see here is just that migration that we just talked about, right? So we're going from, on the low end, we're going from those subscribers that are less than 50 megabits per second That last year accounted for about 15% of all subscribers. That's down to 13. If you look at the 100 to 200 speed, that's gone from 17 down to 14. But then as you look at the faster speeds, we're seeing an uptick. As expected, the adoption of these faster speeds is continuing to where now, if you do the math there, we've got 42% of all subscribers that have at least 500 megabits per second. So plenty of bandwidth there, and operators have done a great job upgrading their networks to be able to offer these speeds. And clearly subscribers are adopting them and taking advantage of these faster speeds. I think, Larry mentioned this up front that, we as a business have really evolved over the past few years, particularly since COVID. There's been such a renewed focus, I shouldn't say renewed, but a greater focus on network health. Broadband is getting more competitive. We know there's a lot of fiber overbuilders. There's fixed wireless. There's a lot of competition out there today. So it's really important that DOCSIS operators in particular have a healthy network. So one of the really exciting products that we've been out there selling in the market is our Vantage PMA product, which is all about optimizing the modulation profiles used by DOCSIS 3.1, 3.1 plus, 4.0, eventually cable modems on the OFDM and OFDMA channels, where we're routinely monitoring the health of the network. And when there are impairments, PMA kicks in and automatically optimizes the available the profiles that modems can support. So the results are astounding in terms of the increase in network capacity, as well as the resilience. So operators have made a big investment in upgrading to 3.1 and 3.1 plus, et cetera. So it's important that those modems stay locked on the OFDM and OFDMA channels. If they don't, you're just not getting the optimal levels of service that you've invested in. And subscribers, therefore, just aren't getting the quality of experience that they expect. And remember, as you're moving up the food chain and upgrading networks, you're doing it so you can offer faster speeds, eventually symmetrical speeds. These customers expect better and better service. The problem is when you move up to these higher spectrum, et cetera, it introduces more challenges in the network. Networks are getting more complex. The impairments become really much more impactful. So it's that much more important for operators to have the tools at their disposal to keep the networks as healthy as possible. So I think we're going to give an example here of PMA kind of in action with some key metrics that we track. And here's an example of, this is an actual observations prior to PMA being deployed. And some of the key metrics, we collect a lot of data. It's not just usage data, but it's network health data. Just to run down the list, the percentage of channels that have more than 50% of modems that are in partial service, meaning they're not actually getting the service that 3.1 promises. They've kind of reverted back to the SC-QAM side of the network because of impairments, for example. So in this case, we see 11.6% of channels that meet that criteria, where more than half their modems aren't receiving the service as expected. The next one is really active modems. When you just look at modems in totality, 3.1 modems, what percentage of them are actually locked onto the OFDM and OFDMA channel? And in this case, before PMA is deployed, you see 71.6%. Weighted average bits per hertz, really just a measure of throughput, right? The higher the number, the more the throughput. And then we do a lot around quality of experience scores, right? Where we look at the combination of, kind of modem health as well as spectral efficiency, kind of that throughput we talked about, and measure the quality of experience score, as well as what percentage of your overall network is at or below a score of 6, which really means that you need improvement there to keep customers happy, avoid churn, et cetera. So the next slide that Larry's going to pull up here shows the results of what happens when PMA is deployed. And this, PMA is an automated solution, right? So once it's deployed, it's kind of set it and forget it and let it do its work. But what you can see here is improvement, significant improvement across all of those metrics that we just talked about, so that once PMA is deployed, the network just becomes that much more healthy. It's running much more efficiently. You're actually getting now a return on the investment as an operator that you've already made in a 3.1, 3.1 plus network. So it's absolutely critical that if you're going to make the investment, you've created this available capacity. Without PMA, you're not taking full advantage of it. And you're rolling out 3.1 modems. If those aren't staying locked on the OFDM, OFDMA channels, you're just wasting investment. So, any operator that has deployed 3.1 that doesn't have PMA is really not doing right by their investors. They're not doing right by their customers. So we wanted to share that. Why does it matter? And I'm not going to go through all these. You can all see them on the screen, but significant savings in terms of OpEx with supporting your customers, rolling trucks, phone calls, etc. Very significant capacity gains. Again, you've spent the money to create the capacity. Now you want it to actually be available for your subscribers, because at the end of the day, if your subscribers aren't happy, you're going to experience churn. You're not going to be able to drive revenues, upgrade subscribers to faster speeds. Nobody's going to put up with for too long an upgrade that just doesn't give them what they're paying for. This is what PMA, with a combination of PNM, and we'll talk about that in a second, which is really critical. These are some of the benefits that operators have enjoyed.
Thank you, Mark. So, keeping that in mind, the importance of PMA as well as in combination with PNM, we'd like to ask you a question. So if you don't mind getting involved here and answering this question, how are you currently addressing your network impairments? Are you being reactive about it, basically addressing network issues as they occur? Or are you currently moving toward proactive network optimization, but you're not there yet? Or you've built your own proactive network optimization solution, kind of an in-house solution? Or have you, as some of our customers have, deployed a third-party PNM and PMA solution? As you can see, most providers are reactive, but are seeing the importance of it and moving toward the solution. Let's talk about what's causing network health issues and quality of experience problems. Every day, we discover and address issues in our customers' network that keep them from delivering the best possible quality of experience and maintaining their NPS rating. Of the causes we see the most, these are the top ones: network impairments, as we've touched upon, of which there's a wide assortment, and reduced capacity or network congestion. So now we're going to take a look at each and how to solve for them and the kinds of tools that OpenVault provides to solve for it. So once again, here's Mark.
Thanks, Larry. So yeah, and again, we've shown this before, so I'm not going to go through each one of these, but there are numerous types of impairments that can have negative impacts on subscribers. So this is the reason that these tools, are so critical. Because the complexity of these networks increases as they're upgraded to 3.1 and eventually 4.0. So all of these things can cause significant negative customer issues. So this is why we at OpenVault are so focused on bringing network health type solutions to the market in a vendor agnostic way, right? Most operators have a multi-vendor infrastructure environment. It's important that they have a single tool that can work across all of their infrastructure, and that's as an independent software vendor. That's one of the exciting things that I think we bring to the table. So we can move on from this. Just talk about proactive network maintenance for a second. There's so many benefits to being able to pinpoint where the impairments are. So on the one hand, we talked about PMA, which kind of works around impairments and compensates for impairments, squeezing the most possible capacity and resiliency out of your network, even when impairments exist. Those impairments still need to get fixed. They need to get prioritized. How many subscribers are impacted by a given impairment? The field technicians need the workflow tools to be able to prioritize their day And again, pinpoint impairments for resolution. Is the impairment inside the home? Is it in the outside plant? Where is it? What is it? Alarming, all sorts of functions that our PNM solution bring to operators. And it's just a critical tool. As operators upgrade their network, it becomes more and more critical. So these work very well together, PNM and PMA. So we can go to the next slide, Larry.
Yeah. So we've talked about network impairments. Now let's focus on capacity constraints.
Yeah, let's talk about capacity constraints for a second, because a lot of operators think when there's a capacity issue, it's simply let's split the node because there's just so much usage on a given node, and it's causing subscribers to have quality of experience issues. And the reality is, operators really need to look deeper into what the root cause is of capacity constraints. Because oftentimes in our data, we see one subscriber. We've talked about this a lot over the years. One or two subscribers can be causing issues for 200 or 300 others. Again, these are shared networks. So when you have one or two subscribers causing issues, if you go ahead and split the node, you're still going to have issues wherever those one or two subscribers end up. So again, root cause is important. Impairments themselves reduces capacity, reduces the available bandwidth and the bandwidth that individual modems can get. That's going to appear almost as if it's congestion issues. Or let's say 3.1 modems get knocked off to the SC-QAM side of the house, utilization stats are going to skyrocket because those 3.1 subscribers are typically your heavier users that are now going to be bundled in with everybody else, causing issues for everybody. The other thing that we see operators not always spending a lot of time paying attention to is oversubscription, right? Marketing and sales for these operators do a great job selling gig service, for example, but oftentimes they're selling gig service on areas of the network that just can't support it, either because there's impairments in the network or because truly you have too many subscribers with that level of service for the network to be able to support. So if operators really can, this is why we've launched, as Larry pointed out, our product called Vantage, to take that, to look from that vantage point across the network to be able to identify really what the root cause is critical to make sure you can come up with the right resolution. So that's just some examples of things that can cause capacity issues and why, profile management application is so critical, particularly the way that we do it, which is very dynamic. It's adaptive, based on what the network is telling us every single day, multiple times a day, making sure that we're actually applying the optimal profiles based on what the network is telling us, and doing it in again, a very dynamic way, as opposed to just deploying flat profiles and taking somewhat of a least common denominator approach, which is frankly what happens a lot by the infrastructure providers in particular. You see a lot of what we'd call very rudimentary versions of profile management, where the solution that we have is much more dynamic and is going to create much more efficiency in your network. Which is why, again, to bring up Vantage, all of these things work together, right? Understanding that, there's going to be impairments. How can you work around them until the impairment can get fixed through PMA? How can PNM help you identify the impairments? How can congestion management take action on abusive customers that might be causing the issue? So all of these things really work well together. All of them also share a lot of the same data. So when we announced Vantage, one of the key benefits was that we have a single poller that can pull data across these solutions rather than multiple times for the same type of data, which we all know is not very efficient, can be very cumbersome for the hardware manufacturers and for the infrastructure providers. So being able with a single poller to pull all data needed for all these solutions is really exciting. Having a single single source of data with a single database is another big benefit of Vantage. So you're not duplicating data sets. you have a source of record that all that data can be shared with other downstream applications. Really important and exciting and much more efficient. And I think the other thing that at least customers we've shown this to that are excited about is the next slide, Larry, which is the interface. Being able to have a single interface with functionality covering both PMA and PNM in the same tool, configurable, of course, based on the role of the user. Really powerful stuff, and kind of a whole window into what's going on in the access network with, again, a single interface, which the feedback we've gotten has been tremendous so far. So again, just quick to deploy. It is software. It's not deploying hardware. It's vendor agnostic. So regardless of your infrastructure, this will work. Again, across multiple infrastructure vendors with a single tool, which is what our customers have been asking for.
Well, thank you. Now we'll take some questions. We've had some active participants today asking some questions. So let's get to them. Question 1. You mentioned you address network optimization through software. What are the benefits of this approach versus hardware?
Good question. I mean, you can always throw more hardware at a problem, but that's going to take time. It's going to take money. It's going to take resources to do, and then you're going to increase the complexity of your network and ultimately the cost of maintaining your network, and that cost is not going to go away. So you've kind of you've set yourself up for a long time supporting additional hardware. Where software, you've already got the capacity. You've already invested in 3.1. You just have to optimize that. So before there's more spending and CapEx spending on hardware, operators should really take a close look at, are they really squeezing the most out of the investment they've already made? Because what a shame to make that investment and then actually not get the full benefit of the upgraded network. Software is the way to do it. It's quicker to deploy. It's much more cost effective. You're going to get an immediate ROI going with software as a way to kind of extend the life of your network and squeeze the most out of it.
And speaking of networks, our next question about PMA. Does PMA only benefit DOCSIS 3.1 customers?
Great question, because it is kind of known as a 3.1 solution. The more and more we got into deploying PMA, the more we realized it actually helps all subscribers. And the example I gave earlier is in an impairment situation, a lot of 3.1 modems are knocked off the OFDM/OFDMA channels, therefore kind of getting bundled in with all subscribers, 3.0 subscribers, even in some cases 2.0 subscribers that are still out there. So without PMA, all subscribers are kind of created equal and all share a limited amount of bandwidth and capacity. With PMA, again, you're expanding the capacity for 3.1 subscribers by giving them the most possible bandwidth their modems can support. But in so doing, you're also keeping them bonded to the OFDM and OFDMA channels and off of the SE-QAM side of the network. So all those other customers, 3.0, 2.0 DOCSIS customers, are going to be far happier customers as well. So no, PMA actually, we've kind of slapped us in the face a little bit. We realized that it actually helps customers across the board.
For your Vantage solution, how long is deployment and how much training is required?
So I'm going to break that into a couple of responses. So first of all, once we have connectivity, secure connectivity, obviously security is very important to all of our customers. The deployment is actually very quick. It could literally be done in hours. We're not talking about a huge timeline. PMA is one of those solutions that's once it's set up and it's running and it's optimizing profiles, requires very little care and feeding. It's kind of a set it and forget it solution, providing benefits behind the scenes the whole time. P&M is much more, becomes part of the workflow of an operator's environment. Field technicians use our mobile app and our AI tools, as part of their day-to-day routine. So that solution in itself, P&M, takes a little bit more training to ensure that there's solid adoption by field technicians and such to use the tool, but it's well worth the investment in the training, because the last thing we want to see is somebody purchasing our P&M solution and then not getting the proper training, because then you're not getting the full benefit. And so it's really important that there's solid training on the P&M front in particular.
Are there other providers of PMA in the market, and how do they compare with Vantage?
To our knowledge, there's no independent software, a vendor-agnostic software company that's offering PMA today. We're kind of the first out there. We're the first partner of Curio, Cable Labs Curio, as a preferred PMA partner. As I mentioned earlier, there are kind of rudimentary PMA solutions out there, often offered by the infrastructure providers. I say rudimentary, just kind of least common denominator, flat profiles being applied just to keep modems online. The beauty of what we've done as an independent software vendor that's vendor agnostic is we've taken a much more dynamic approach and squeezing the most possible efficiency and capacity as we can with our approach. So we're not aware of other independent software vendors doing this. Of course, we believe we've got quite a head start in bringing this solution to market.
And our last question regarding data. You showed a market increase in usage from the first quarter to the second quarter, when normally there's a slight dip. Do you expect this abnormal usage increase to continue through the year?
I do. I think it's something that obviously we're going to keep an eye on and keep watching, and maybe I'm wrong, but just the dynamics of the industry, how you're seeing a lot of continued focus on streaming, new streaming services. I mentioned ESPN. There are others as well. Streaming video still is chewing up the vast majority of bandwidth, and I think that's going to continue, if not grow. Cord cutting is continuing to occur. I think I saw a stat where in 2018, I think there were 30-something million cord cutters that were kind of broadband only customers. Today, that number has grown to close to 75 million. So really doubled in terms of the subscribers that are consuming all content over the broadband pipe. I don't think any of those things are going to change. I think we also don't know what the impact of AI is going to be. I think currently we see a lot of the processing of ChatGPT and things happening in the cloud. That's not necessarily chewing up a ton of bandwidth just yet. But as more and more models come to market and they become adopted by consumers, I think it's a little bit of an unknown just how much AI is going to drive usage as well. So we're all waiting for that next, wondering what that next killer app is going to be, and by that I mean what's going to chew up bandwidth. Something is coming. So I think between what the trends that exist today and what's likely to happen down the road, I don't think this is this growth quarter over quarter is gonna stop, but we'll see.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you to our attendees for your questions. As you can see, OpenVault's not in the business to publish just the OVBI. We're a solutions provider, helping broadband operators improve their performance. But we do see ourselves as industry stewards, and since we have access to all this usage data through our deployed solutions, we're pleased to provide each quarter's OVBI to you. Don't forget to get yours at our website. And with that said, thank you for Thanks for coming. And our contact information is at the bottom. If you have additional questions, you'd like to see a demo of our solutions, we'd be happy to share it with you and help you maintain the optimization of your network. Thanks all.